Well, where do I even begin with this one? Wow, I don't like making YouTube videos. I actually despise making YouTube videos. I think YouTube has reached a point that either the videos are way too long, or the people speaking have no idea what they're talking about. Everyone speaks with a certain level of authority, and you can never really fact check anything that's being said there. I used to be a big fan of YouTube. I used to love making YouTube videos. You go back 10 years ago, my beard was less gray and my mustache was much normal. And I used to really think, oh, I would do YouTube videos and so on. And then I got really tired with YouTube. And when I watch YouTube, I have to admit, this is one of my son's toys. This is what I feel like. I feel like upside duck. My head hurts when I watch YouTube videos these days. So why am I making this video? Well, first of all, because I actually do want to relaunch my videos and put a lot more. But the format's going to be very simplistic. I'm not making a fuss of anything. And if there are any background noises, I do apologize. I live in a house with my kids, and you know, this is what I can do. The the reason I'm making this video is because I am, as a professional teacher who's been teaching for over 15 years, as a person who's been educating for over 20 years, and as a person who actually went to college, to school, one of my degrees, to learn the things that I teach. I think there's a certain level of responsibility that we have as teachers when we teach. The fact that I grew up speaking Hebrew was, and also speaking English, was a great plus when I wanted to when I started teaching. I was promoted by a certain friend who saw my abilities and said, "You need to teach." I said, "Fine." And what's absolutely nuts is that as time progressed, I discovered there are more teachers out there. There was actually a teacher, a man who wanted to start being a teacher, and he contacted me and he asked me questions about how to start his business, and I was more than happy to help him. Why? Because he did the exact same thing I did. He had also diplomas. He went to university. He got his degrees. He's doing his PhD right now. I'm not doing my PhD right now because I'm still recovering from my father's passing. I studied Biblical Hebrew, Biblical Aramaic, Aramaic and overall, Akkadian, Ugaritic, Phoenician. I'm aspiring to do Greek as well. You can see a great book, Basics of Biblical Greek. It's a great book. Um, Much more difficult to learn than Hebrew, I have to say. And the thing that's mind-boggling to me is that in less than 24 hours, for some reason, YouTube suggested videos by people who want to teach Hebrew. Now, I wasn't perfect when I started, and I'm most definitely not perfect right now, but I'm a lot better. And there are two things that irk me when people try to teach. The first one is when they're trying to present something no one else knows. And then when you actually start looking, you discover, oh, wait, this is something that every basic grammar book teaches. Okay. Reminds me of a story. A friend of mine was in this conference of some sort. This was a conference for, I think this was some kind of Messianic conference. And there's a guy there who goes around, he's teaching everyone Hebrew. And someone asks him a very basic thing about what is that dot within that letter? What we call dagesh, by the way. And the guy goes, no one knows. It was what we call in Hebrew dagesh tavniti. It was a paradigm dagesh because it was a verb in the PL. This guy standing there speaking with great authority over this thing that he's teaching, it just drove me nuts. It really drove me nuts. So I'm watching these two videos. I don't want to shame anyone because it's not my point. but it makes me realize I need to go back and making more videos on YouTube and explaining things more in detail, and doing a lot more. I mean, I do stuff on my Patreon. My Patreon is really where I do a lot of my professional work, and I actually have professional videos there about understanding biblical Hebrew. Um, but when you look at what people are doing with this either selling you a secret, which is something I despise that people do, telling you, oh, well, there's something you don't know about, and or trying to present Hebrew in some mystical way that really gets on my nerves. I am anti-mysticism like you would not believe. And or and this is the second thing, as I mentioned earlier, this way of speaking with authority. Like, you can sit in front of a camera and say whatever you want, but when it comes to teaching, sensationalism is nothing. Sensationalism teaches nothing, helps with nothing, achieves nothing. If your entire purpose is to drum up attention to your work by misrepresenting information or doing very bad research and then presenting it, then you have failed as a teacher. My father, today is my father's memorial, what the Ashkenazim call Yotzeit. My father's Yom Zikaron. My father was a teacher. My father was a teacher for many years. He taught in England, and then he taught here in Israel, and he taught in America. And my father always made sure his students understand what they are learning, and making sure that the students know the source. And if something is a speculation, then you present it as a speculation. When I started going to academia, my father almost finished a PhD in education. He didn't finish it, he got too sick. Also, he was dealing with a university that would not comprehend the fact that he was Jewish, and they wanted him to present something on Yom Kippurim, which was really nuts. And the thing that he did with me was, the moment I went to higher education, I did it much later in life, he became very stern with me about, what are your sources? How do you know this? What is the premise of the argument? He completely changed his attitude with me. So that's the thing. When I started teaching, there weren't too many teachers out there that really knew what they're doing. Today, there are more. I understand this concept of, I have experience as a native speaker, I want to do XYZ. Absolutely brilliant. I can't reach everyone. Actually, my YouTube channel is very small. My viewership is very, very small, but my Facebook and other things are much bigger. But if you are going to teach, make sure you know what you're teaching. I don't like making reaction videos. I actually don't like watching reaction videos. I think that people commenting on someone else's content is stupid. But I expect people to do their due diligence. If you want to learn lots of information about Hebrew, Semitic languages, the Bible and its context and so on, you can go to Land of Scripture at Patreon. You can also go to my original Facebook page, Hebrew in Israel. I post a lot of things there, mostly written. As an academic, I tend to write a lot more than make videos. But it is, as I said earlier, irking to me as a teacher that if you're going to present something, do your research. Do things. Don't rely on your pre-knowledge as a Hebrew speaker or any language. Don't rely on it, because you're going to discover a lot of things which are not going to be correct. I went through the same thing as well, and I was very well read. The amount of books I read before I started was, at the time I reached when I started teaching, so many books behind me, it was absolutely insane. But even then, I was redirected, I was corrected, I was warned about things. And I think that it might be time for me to start going into different topics again, talking about different topics and so on. So this is kind of like an introduction to the new, originally Hebrew in Israel, land of scripture, but the format's going to be very simple. I don't like fancy. I don't believe in fancy. I don't have the energy to do editing. Every video I'm going to make, it's going to be with the noises and everything, because I just don't have the energy or time for it. But if you want to hear real information from an actual professional who went to university, okay, who is eyeing a PhD right now, who sits with real academics, heads of departments, I'm not the only one. There's lots of people like me, but I'm one of them. So this will be the new. This might be the beginning of a renaissance of Hebrew in Israel and / now Land of Scripture. I changed the name, and I know I'm not giving in here any special information or anything. It irks me because I literally sat down to watch multiple videos in the less than 24 hours of people just saying silly things. Even if they have a big channel. And by the way, anyone, if you can't verify what this person is saying, if they're not willing to give you sources in their descriptions for the research, then as a professional, I can't accept this. There'll be no sources on this one because this is not a discussion about anything. But be careful. I'm just going to be very flat about it. Be very, very careful with people who teach online. I deal on a regular basis with a lot of weird questions that people ask me about biblical manuscripts and the Dead Sea Scrolls, which I, by the way, worked as a Dead Sea Scroll researcher at Haifa University. It used to be a team there under Professor Yonatan Bendov, who I'm still in touch with. Great teacher. And I've done ancient Near Eastern studies and Semitic languages and so on. And I just watch these videos and it drives me nuts. I actually asked my son before I started recording this, I asked my son and he said to me, the biggest issue is that people speak with authority. And a true researcher always allows himself to be a little bit humble and point out that this is a possibility. We don't deal with absolutes. This is a possibility. I once posted something about the vocalization of the letter tzadi, which there will be a video about this, and someone challenged me, and you know what? The challenge was wonderful. He pointed things out, he had a very interesting discussion with me, and he made me think, and he actually sent me to research by someone else, a different method of understanding things, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Okay, which led me to read more material, and that's how you grow. And I'm not expecting people to know everything. It's not realistic. But if you're a teacher and you want to put things out, make sure you know what you're talking about. So hopefully this will be a start. I hope I have the energy to do everything. It's a lot to do every single day. So if you allow this simple format, I will be more than happy to oblige to this. Kol tov.